All opinions and comments expressed by the hosts and guests of this podcast are solely those of the individual speakers and do not represent the views or positions of any theater or theatrical organization with which they may be affiliated. Welcome to the ACT Podcast, Actors Creating Together, a podcast dedicated to theater here in the South Texas area. And now, here are your hosts, Jessica, Cameron, and Mario.
Welcome back to ACT. I'm Cameron, and I'm here with Mario and Jessica.
Hello.
Today's topic, we are talking costumes.
Costumes.
And not just costumes that you see on stage, but the whole entire process behind them.
Mm-hmm. It's a lot.
Jessica, your thoughts on costuming?
It's not easy. As a self-taught sewer, lots of YouTube videos, for sure. I've made a couple of cosplay costumes for my kids. Maybe I'll have to pull up some of those and put them on the Facebook page with the topic of this so we can see that. Some items that I've made. But as far as costuming goes for your local theater, pulling together items that you already have and making sure that they fit, it's a huge process. And having somebody that you trust who can do
alterations.
Thank you. That's the word. Mm-hmm. But yeah, doing the alterations and having someone you trust that can be quick and get the job done well is really, really important. I know there's been plenty of times where we're backstage and in between a show, you have a tear in a costume or you lose a piece of the costume and it's like improv. You pull out a needle and thread and quickly hem up a tear or something. There's a lot involved for sure. With that being said, if there is a professional costumer and you'd like to be a guest on our show, please message us and let us know. We'd love to talk to you and potentially have you on the show with us. So,
my experience with costuming is usually only because I've only been in Aurora. I don't know how they do it at the other theaters, but at Aurora, there's a lot of costumes in storage from past shows.
So much
that we've taken and you just repurpose them for the show you're doing.
Have you been in her costume storage room?
Oh God, it's
so
a lot.
Much. It's a lot of costumes.
I can sit there and just go through all these things. I remember that. I've seen that. Tons of stuff. And so
she's actually planning on having a garage sale as soon as the weather gets a little bit cooler. So we'll keep everybody updated on that.
Sounds great.
Yeah, because she's going to do a huge sale where there's a lot that she's going to have to get rid of.
Right.
So it'll be at really good, affordable prices for easy, quick sales.
Yeah.
So, we'll keep you informed.
That's cool. So, I don't know what Cameron's got to go through trying on stuff.
You're working on Elf right now.
Yeah, I am working on Elf, but I'm actually going to piggyback off of what you said earlier about costume pieces getting torn or missing. Back at Del Mar, we did Rumors, and I played Officer Pudney. I actually had to sew pieces of my own costume together, buttons, patches, what have you. And in the middle of the show, one of my patches was coming loose. And so I had to run to our costume professor and ask her to sew it up really fast. I had maybe 5-10 minutes to get that patch sewn back on correctly and then go back on stage. And when I tell you I was out of breath going from stage to her room, from the room back to the stage.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And costume mishaps.
In costume.
When they do happen on stage, though, they're quite humorous for the audience. Total embarrassment for the actor on stage, but...
I mean, you have to go with it.
Yeah.
You have to go with it. You can't stop.
Yeah. No, you have to. So that brings me back to a funny memory of my junior year in high school, and we were doing Peter Pan, and I guess the Broadway version of it, they have forest animals, and they've got this big kangaroo who's like a mother kangaroo. Anyway, it's like a mascot. I had no words. I didn't sing. I could barely dance because my feet were like 3 feet long. Okay, so walking around in this costume was the most difficult thing to do. I was all of like 120 pounds, 5'9". I was scrawny. Okay. Like not much to me. And this costume is huge and my head was humongous. But because it was so difficult to like get around in this costume, one of the backstage moms was responsible for helping me get into the costume. And it was time for me to get on stage. And I sort of sat in the body of the costume, waiting to go on stage when it was my turn. And so my head just happened to be like 300 feet away. And she sees me sort of get all panicky when I realize I don't have my head and I'm going on stage in all of 5 seconds. So I look over at her and she looks at me and she's like, "Oh, you need your head." So she grabs the head, starts running towards me with the head in her hand, trips.
Oh,
And the head goes flying and she goes flying. And I felt so bad for her. And I was just like, oh my gosh, she was totally fine though. But she gets up and she grabs the head and like limps as quickly as she can over to me. And I put on the head and I go back on stage. But I remember out there doing my little dance that I did and thinking to myself, I really hope she's okay. Like, it was so bad. Anyway, costume mishaps, backstage, on stage, they're great.
oh yeah. Yeah. Well, the only costume thing I had was when I was playing Dr. Scott. I go on the first part of it, and I have pants on, and of course the second part come on. If you've not seen the show, Dr. Scott doesn't have any pants on. He's got stockings on.
You were pantsless.
With with heels. And so my thing was is this heels. It wasn't so much the had those under my pants. It wasn't a big deal. It's putting on those heels and getting back into that chair, trying to walk from backstage to the chair where the chair was to get on stage. And these things were big, long heels, and the little strap was so small, like the little buckle in there was so small. So I'm trying to, and I'm doing it by myself. There's nobody helping me. They're all trying to help me.
Mario, it sounds like you need a Velcro.
I did it, and this is what I was gonna do, was gonna to actually put Velcro through, but I just never did it. And after time and doing it once, I'll put a little strap and a little buckle in there. It just got worn out to the point to where it just wouldn't buckle anymore. And I think that piece of tape for the last 2 or 3 shows. I just got a piece of tape and just wrapped it around there. Now it's what's gonna happen. But yeah, that was fun. High heels and stockings. I don't know if I'll ever do that again, but
I'm proud of you. That's awesome.
It takes a very secure man to put on fishnets and high heels.
Yeah, it does.
that's something. I actually afterwards went to go eat one of the first shows that we did, and I forgot that I had those on. I had shorts on, but I had them. And people were looking at me, and it wasn't Halloween yet, so people were looking at me like, "Okay, is this guy? What is going on?"
Isn't there a really famous guy here in Corpus that is known for wearing heels? Like that is what that's what he's comfortable in.
Really?
Yeah.
There's a guy that walks. Well, he used to on Flower Bluff. He'd walk down the street, walking down.
Yeah.
And these big platform
Yeah.
heels.
My understanding is he's a businessman. He has a business job, and heels is what he prefers to wear.
Oh, wow.
If you're listening to this and this is you, we would love to meet you and interview you because
Yes.
I think it's amazing.
I wanted to see your.
I want to try on your shoes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to try them on. So no, we'd love to have you. Let me know. Contact us. We'd love to have you on the show. But anyway, with that being said, but on the director's end of costuming and needing to decide and work with the costumer on how many costumes per actor and making sure that they all look good on stage together. I know in the last show, there was some disagreement on one of the dresses that, in my opinion, I didn't feel as though it fit the rest of the costumes on stage. I was assistant director. The director had his view on it, and that's just something that is going to happen every now and then where you have, but the director does have final say in everything. But also keeping in mind the comfortability of the actor. This, these aren't paid actors.
Yeah.
They're
Volunteers.
They're volunteers, and this is their life as well, and they have to be comfortable, and we don't want them to be in something that makes them feel uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But we also have to meet the goal of the show and the goal of the costume.
Right.
And I do believe that there's a way to work together to make everyone comfortable that in what they're wearing and to get the director's viewpoint across all simultaneously. But it is sometimes a juggling event to make all of that happen. And hours and hours and hours upon hours of lining up the costumes, having people try them on, getting them, making sure you have every piece that you need all the way up until the day of the show. You're sometimes working on last minute pieces.
And what also can make costuming difficult is the measurements of your actors, because when you first measure your actors, like, okay, you are this way, I'm looking for a costume that fits you, or you can look for a costume that fits yourself. Sometimes, like, an actor will lose weight, gain weight, what have you. So you have to take the costume in, take the costume out, try to find, like, a different costume piece
Yeah, you've got
altogether.
8 weeks in between.
Yeah, and it takes a lot. It's a lot.
Yeah, it is. Oh, with that being said, one of the topics I almost forgot we wanted to mention is the difficulty here in the Corpus Christi area having a lack of material stores and being able to create costumes from scratch because we don't have the resources we need for materials.
R.I.P. Joanne's.
But even with Joanne's, it wasn't a huge selection.
Right.
And I've done some research. There appears to be a store in San Antonio that's got some really cool collections. I should have had that ready to mention the name of it, but I don't. So I'm going to pull that up right now.
Sponsors, so
Yeah, if you'd like to sponsor us, that'd be great.
yeah.
And I heard Mood is coming to Houston.
Who?
Mood
Fabric Store.
Ooh.
If you watch Project Runway, Mood is the store that they use for Project Runway and their fabric selections. Absolutely phenomenal fabric.
Jessica, what I'm hearing is road trip.
Road trip 100%. And we're going to record and take photos, and we may even do a podcast right there in the middle of the store to talk about all of the amazing materials.
I'll have snacks ready.
Do you have a time when this is going to open?
So the store in San Antonio that makes my heart beat a little bit faster is a store called Fabrictopia. And we're going to put this on our Facebook page. We'll mention it and take a look at it. It's just, here, you guys take a look at these pictures. Look at this fabric.
Oh, wow. It's a lot.
Yeah.
It's huge.
It's huge.
That is, wow.
Yeah. I'm so
And
excited.
actually, Mood is going to open next month.
Dun, dun.
Dun, dun, dun.
Just in time for Christmas.
I'm so
Sir,
excited.
Thanksgiving.
Well, Thanksgiving. But Christmas. You dressing for Thanksgiving?
Sir, I will wear a turkey hat.
Does it open before Elf starts?
There's not a lot of...
I mean, it doesn't. It just says early next month is when it'll open.
But check it out.
That'd be...
Both Mood. Oh, did we have the address for the
Oh, yeah.
Mood?
I'm going back to the address.
So for
West Alabama Street.
Okay.
That's
I don't know
all
which
it
way
says.
Houston.
I don't know where that's...
Yeah. So the two top fabric stores near the Corpus Christi area, one in San Antonio, Fabrictopia. We'll put that on our Facebook page for you. And then Mood coming to Houston next month.
Sounds awesome.
It does. I'm really excited. So, but costuming, yes.
I feel like Fabrictopia and Mood is your Disney World.
Yeah, it is. And it's phenomenal.
She's going to be staying overnight before they open the doors. And she'll get there first to get in.
I mean, don't tempt me.
I was about to say, don't send them off. Still do it.
I was going to say, y'all not laughing when it happened. I don't have that option. Just be the one in the costume. I don't really...
I'm going to be taking PTO that day, make a day trip.
That day or that week.
No.
The weekend.
Fabrictopia looks
Open up on
huge.
Friday, stay till Sunday.
Anyway,
Back on track.
If you got any questions about costuming or how the costuming process happens, or if you have some input you want to tell us, you can leave a little message
Please
on
do.
Facebook.
I'd love to have you here.
Or send us an email at that long email address that's on our Facebook page. I'm not going to say it.
I actually remember.
Do you remember this?
No, I remember sewing buttons on one of my costume projects. Terrible project. I got a C. Anyway,
See for buttons?
it was like no, I had to make like a whole costume like piece.
Oh, okay. So you got
I
to
was-
see for the costume, not just the buttons.
not just the buttons.
Because that's probably the hardest part, right?
My buttons were lined up perfectly, phenomenal. But I kept poking myself with a needle, and my teacher, she was like, "Well, why don't you put on the Why don't you put on the thimble?" And I'm just like, "Okay, cool." I looked at the thimble, put it down, went back to sewing, and kept poking myself. I don't like using the thimble. The thimble's to stop
The kiss.
from poking.
Kiss. Peter Pan. A thimble is a kiss.
Oh, really?
It's also a piece on Monopoly board, but
Yeah.
He's on a Monopoly board, but that's when Peter Pan gives Wendy a kiss, he hands her a thimble.
Oh.
that's all about the topic this week. We're going to go on to the interview that we have, and it's with Drake Jackson, the lead performer in Rocky Horror show at Aurora. He is playing Frankenfurter, and without any further ado, here's Drake. Okay, guys, it's our next interview for our latest episode, and we've got Drake Jackson with us. Drake, thanks for joining us. We're going to talk to you a little bit about Rocky Horror.
All right.
And first question is going to be just tell us a little bit about yourself and how did you get involved with the theater here in Corpus?
Well, I am from North Texas. I am originally from Gainesville, Texas, small little town up near Oklahoma.
Okay.
I always tell people, I'm like, we're right near the casino. That's where we are, right close to there. So I didn't really do theater until I was in 6th or 7th grade. I started taking classes at a community theater. That's where I got my start. It wasn't through school or anything like that. I avoided theater kind of, which is weird for me. But I started in community theater, and I did The Hobbit. That was the first show I ever did.
Oh.
And then I did Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe community theater. And then about halfway through my sophomore year of high school, I moved over to a different school with a better theater program.
Oh, okay.
And so that's where I finished up high school. And that theater teacher, she gave me a lot to work with. For a high school program, we were already learning college level books.
Oh.
Like I was getting taught different acting methods that you don't learn until your first year of college usually. So I was very fortunate. She is a costume designer, so I learned a lot of that through her, lighting, like everything that you would normally get later on. I was fortunate to have that early in school.
Wow.
And so she attended Texas A&M Corpus Christi. And so that's how I found my way down here. So I was in school for a bit, and then I found my way over here at Aurora. And I've been here for a year now.
And pretty much in every show.
No, I feel like it. Involved in just about every show, yeah.
Which is the great for it, so I'm not getting you. Cameron, you got some questions?
How has your experience as an actor influenced you with how you communicate with performers while you're directing a show like Elf?
I have always been the kind of person that I think from the actor's point of view. And that, like, especially, so the first show I ever directed was at my hometown theater. I got invited back. I've been in Corpus for about 4 years now. But last summer, I got invited back to direct Legally Blonde at my theater. And that was my first time ever in the director's chair. But I was always like, okay, I've been the actor. What would I want out of a director? As an actor, what do I want out of the director? And so I'm always very collaborative. I like to work with my actors in different ways. I like to get to know my actors, typically. Especially, so Legally Blonde, I knew a lot of the people already. And so that was kind of easy for me. So I was like, go off of you. Because I'm also the kind of director, I want you to portray the character, but I don't want you to be someone you aren't, because all acting is an extension of yourself.
Yeah.
And that's where the most authentic acting comes from, is you. And so that's what I try to get out of my actors, especially. So Murder on the Orient Express, which I did here earlier this year, that was my first time directing a play, which was a lot harder than a musical, which many would not think that. But for someone like me who is so musically inclined, taking all that away and just the acting to focus on it was a lot trickier, but it was a lot more fun to be able to start like day one already working on character work and getting into who each of these characters are. And that was like an example of that. So Holly Brawley, she was Miss Helen Hubbard in our show.
Okay.
And spoiler alert, she turns out to not be Helen Hubbard and is the grandmother of the little girl who got murdered.
Right.
And so the whole show, like, she's playing this very goofy theatrical character, and the show is funny, but it has this darkness to it, which I want to keep. Because when it comes to directing musicals and plays, musicals, I love to direct a comedy, I love to direct silly shows. Plays, I want something a little more serious.
Right.
And so I really want to hone in on that for Murder. And so I was like, you are playing this crazy over-the-top woman, but you're also playing this other character. And it's important to remember, it's important to remember both of the people.
Right.
And so that was one of the challenges, but I worked with a lot of them on that. And it was really her and Nastasia who had to play like two people in one show, but they were the same character. And that was a fascinating thing. But I really like to go into, I tried to connect them to their character. I tried to connect the actor to the character. Yeah.
So you're in Rocky Horror.
Yes.
And that's actually going on right now as we speak. We're there on the second week.
We are in our third week. Just got done with our third week.
Third week, okay. So portraying such a bold and iconic character in the Rocky Horror Show can be demanding. How do you balance the humor, sensuality, and vulnerability of that performance?
Well, like I was saying before, everything's an extension of myself. And so when I was finding Frank, immediately when people think of the character, they think of Tim Curry.
Right.
And that is always something that I think about. Last year was my first time in Rocky Horror. I played Riff Raff. And because it was my first time in Rocky, and I love the film so much, I'm like, oh gosh, I don't want to stray from that. I need to stay at least in the same guidelines of what the film did and what the actors did. That way, the audience is still intrigued by what I'm doing, but I want to make it my own at the same time.
Right.
This time around, I really wanted to make it my own because Tim Curry is such an icon. No one will ever play that character the same way.
Right.
And so what I did, I just went all in as myself and went a complete 180. And so doing the humor and mixing all of it in, it's just me. And a lot of the time, I'll just, something happened the other night where in the moment, I just did something random and it worked out and I made one of our other actors break, but it's spur of the moment kind of thing because I want it to feel natural.
Sure. Yeah.
And that's a big part of that. Yeah.
Well, as both an actor and director, what's your process for interpreting lyrics or musical moments to convey emotional depth on stage?
That's a good question. So I am also a vocal coach outside of directing and acting. And music has been in my life for so long, even prior to musical theater. I always have listened to film scores. Mm-hmm. Always. There's a video of me as a little bitty child, and it's my dad filming me, and he's just saying names of different movies, and I start singing those tunes. But they all have emotion behind it. Even without the words, there is meaning behind everything.
Right.
And so that's what I try to convey to my students as well. I just had a lesson with your son, Mario.
Right.
And we're working on Maria from West Side Story.
Fever dream.
And and I was explaining to him because he's doing very good too. And we were focusing on the lyrics, but then I wanted to take a second and I just wanted him to hear the music because I was explaining that everything is there. All the material you need without the lyrics is still there with just the music. And so you feel the emotion there. And then when you add the lyrics, it melds everything together, especially when you have a good lyricist and a good composer. Sometimes you end up with the lyricist being the composer, which will happen sometimes. Sometimes it's two different people, but if it's well done, it mixes together. So, like for Rocky Horror, that's such a goofy, crazy show. But when we get to the song I'm Going Home, that one always gets me. And it's not necessarily the words, but it's the music. I feel I hear the music itself.
Right.
And then once I hear the music, and I'll listen to the track by itself. I'll listen just to the score, and then I add the words, but I don't sing it. I say it. I read it as a monologue, and I get into what that means, and I try to dissect it. Like same you would do for character work as you would for a play with a monologue. You look at it, okay, what am I doing here? What does this mean? I do the same thing for lyrics, and I dissect it as a monologue, and then add the music, and it makes it so much more intense, and it adds a lot more layers, I think, to the performance as well.
Because I've seen Rocky a handful of times already. And when you're singing that, I can like feel the emotion coming through your voice as you're singing it.
Well, thank you. I put in a lot of work for that. Especially when we were doing Hedwig, that one is when I really tried to go into that, because that is a character who wrote his own lyrics. Like that is music. The character wrote the songs and the story, and so I tried to think about that too. That these are songs that have relation to the character as well, and so a lot of that I think about before I go on stage.
Okay.
So, which role has challenged you most in your acting career, and what did it teach you about your craft?
I think so far it's been Hedwig. For those of you who don't know who might be listening, that is a show that has only 2 actors in it. And the other actor is there with you for the ride, but they have maybe 5 lines and sing 1 song, and then Hedwig is doing everything else, which it's very nerve-wracking.
Yeah.
I remember leading up to performances, I still had that script in my hand. I'm like, I just can't. It's so hard because there's no scene change.
Right.
You know, it's just, you're in a concert. It is a rock show, and you are the show. And so that was a big challenge. On top of learning the lines, all of the ranges of emotion.
Right.
Because it's a roller coaster of a show. I mean, it starts off, you're in this heightened, like, it's a rock show and it's super exciting. And then we dive into the backstory immediately, and it, like, switches completely. And that was another thing with the music, is that everything, like, you have your highs and lows in that show. And that was hard, I think, emotionally, because it's a roller coaster. But then we got through our first week, I think, of performances, and then I was able to, like, steady myself, and before the show I would sit backstage and I'd take my deep breaths and think about the lyrics, but I can't hone in too much, otherwise it's just going to break me in the beginning, and that's not going to be a good look when I'm like, come on, people, and I'm crying already. So, but it took a lot of work to understand the character, for
Right.
sure. But it was a fun one.
I got to see that every night that it came out, and that was every night blew me away. It was just one of those. I had never seen Hedwig before.
Oh, yeah.
I really hadn't even. I knew a little bit about the story, but being able to see it live, and it's almost like it was a different show every night.
Yeah.
Even though some of the lines have been pretty much word for word the same, you made it a little different every night.
Yeah.
That if you came one night, you'd see one way, and then next would be a totally different way, and it still came across as awesome. So
And
I had to
that-
give you that. That was a really good show.
Yeah, and thank you. And that adds to what I try to bring and what I try to explain to my actors too as a director, the authenticity of the character. Like,
Right.
it's important, like I was saying, to be an extension of yourself. Because if I could have played it so far from myself, but I was happy with our director, Lori. She, costume-wise, she wanted to go off what I would be comfortable in. And so that's what we did. We went off of who I saw as Hedwig and what fit me as a person and what I could relate to. And same goes into Rocky as well. Like, everything with Frank this year, it's everything from the costume to the hair to everything relates to who I am as a person, but just the parts that I don't show as often. And so I get to really unleash other sides of myself on stage with that.
Right.
You vocal directed Rocky, and you're also in it. How much of a challenge was that for you to do both?
So day one, I was like, oh, I'm in over my head. I can't do this. But then, I was able to get over that pretty quickly once we got started because everyone's like, okay, we're here to learn. And that was really exciting. Now, as some of you may know, Peter Lopez was our vocal director here, resident vocal director. And Rocky was his bread and butter. Like, that was his show. He was riff raff. He did all the stuff for Rocky. He was vocal director for so many years. And so last year, he was our vocal director. It was my first time doing Rocky, and I was riff raff. And he was like, let's see if you can do it. And because he talked about him being riff raff, and he would challenge me so much, but I appreciated the challenge. Because it made me better. And I look back and I listen back because we had our SITS probe and I was listening, comparing. I'm like, if it weren't for him, I would have been in the same place I was a year ago. And it's been a big change since then. And sometimes it doesn't feel like it, but it's been a big change. I just can't always hear it. And so when we were getting into rehearsals for this one, we were leading up to auditions and everything. I was just like, these are some big shoes to fill. And it's been done like his way every year too. Like we've done one version of the music that was his, and I knew I could not compare to that. And so what we did is we went with a different version this year vocally. And so I was like, I have to make it my own. I have to be able to I don't have the words for it, but I had to kind of step into my own light in a way because I didn't want to mess up what he did in a sense. And so when we got into it, it was really hard, but I was impressed with what we were able to, even with my ability. I mean, I'd never vocal directed before. It was my first time. And so I was like, okay, like I've worked one-on-one with students before. Now I'm working with a group of people, which is crazy. But when we actually got into the groove of it got a lot easier. And so by the first 2 weeks, we'd learned all the music. And after that, I just got to be an actor. So it really wasn't that crazy. I mean, vocally, I was like, oh, I still have to learn my part. Like I taught everything else. And then like, oh yeah, I have to sing too. So that was tricky. But once we got through vocals, I was able to just relax after that and get into the character. Yeah.
Okay, so what originally drew you to the character of Frankenfurter, and how did it make you how you've been talking about it, how you make it your own unique role of you? You've already spoken a little bit about that, but what drew you to that this year?
I really love the circus concept, and I really love the over the top theatrics that we can do with this year. And I think that already alone alters it from so many other iterations. And my big inspiration, for those of you who have seen, if you haven't, you should go watch it, but American Horror Story Freak Show. The character Elsa Mars, who runs the Freak Show, that was my biggest inspiration because she herself on the outside is not a freak. She is all beauty. And then as time goes by, all those layers unravel and then we see the real person. And so that was a big inspiration. A lot of the 1920s bombshells were big inspirations for me. Different people like that. One that comes to mind, Mae West, was a big inspiration. But any of those very classic, very boastful women, that was my big inspiration for the character. And a lot of the times too, like you have the traditional, like where it's like the guy and he's sexy in the corset and it's that traditional. And I was like, I know me as an actor, I cannot play that. And so I'm like, but I know what I can do. I can play the sexy MILF woman. That's what I can do. And so that's what ended up happening.
I was so glad I wasn't drinking water that would have came out of my nose.
Pull that off.
Yes.
You did pull that off.
Well, thank you.
That off too well.
Thank you.
So is that your idea, the makeup, the dress, the hair? This is all you're thinking?
Yes. I mean, a lot of it, me and Dylan, our director, we looked at together, but majority I would send him stuff, be like, what if we did this? And he was all in for it because he loved my idea for the Elsa Mars kind of aesthetic to the character. And so I really wanted to differ from what it traditionally is to make it kind of new and fresh. I like that, yeah.
Oh, awesome.
Which one has been the most meaningful to you?
I don't know if it's one I've been in, but it was one I directed.
Okay.
I mean, all of my shows I've acted in, they've been wonderful experiences. Like, I've had a blast in just about every show I've done, but I didn't feel anything truly until I directed.
Okay.
And I love acting, I do, but when I'm on the other side, it's a different feeling. And so we were doing Legally Blonde, and that was my first time there, as I said. And rehearsals are going through, and I had my trials and tribulations. I'd never done it before, so I'm working with a lot of new things. I'm picking out costumes, and I'm picking out different types of glass that I didn't know I needed to pick out or things. They're asking me all kinds of different questions about paint, and I'm like, okay, don't know about any of this stuff, but we made it work. And then we got to opening night. And that's when it hit me. When we're sitting in the audience and I'm watching everyone in the audience and I'm seeing how they react to the show and I'm seeing them watch the actors and I'm seeing them laugh and cry and all that stuff. That was the first time I actually felt something really meaningful in theater, when I could see an audience enjoying something I put on. Because when I perform, I do it for an audience, obviously. Like, when you go out at the end and you bow, like, you're thanking the audience and all that stuff. It's a different feeling, though, when you're directing. When you're sitting there and your show's up there and then your cast is bowing and they've done a great job and you have an audience that loved what happened, that gets you a little bit differently than being on stage for me.
So you've worked with it in production with a lot of different musical styles, from rock to holiday pop. How do you adapt your musical sensibility to fit each show?
That's a good question, too. I have known for a long time that I've had a unique, quote unquote, singing voice. But I know I mostly pertain to musical theater. I could not go and do a pop song for you. But luckily, rock and the style that it is connected to theater still fits in that realm. Like, I could go do a Journey song or a Queen song and it still fits because they had, like, over-the-top theatrical voices, you know what I mean? Like, it was rock music, but they had that kind of theater vibrato to them.
Sure.
And so that's kind of where I pull from. I listen back because I have a few different, like, I listen to myself because I'll sit in my car and I'll record myself singing, or I'll sit at the piano recording myself singing different songs. And this one wasn't at the piano, but when we performed Christmas Story at the mall, we did a little showcase there. I sang, I cannot remember the name of the song, but I sang a song that is for the dad to sing. And that was the first time I'd heard myself in a long time. And I was like, what's happening here? Like, it was very theatrical. And I was like, oh, okay, I guess that's my style. And so now I kind of blend it together almost, because Hedwig, that was so far from what I typically do. Like, that was rock singing. And some of the songs were a little bit lighter. Some of them were more heavy on the rock.
Right.
And so I've learned to really use all of it into one. Like, I now have one voice in theater. And I've had a few different, like, I would get so frustrated with myself because I could hear myself singing like somebody. And I hate when I do that, because then I'm not being authentic.
Right.
And that relates back to the acting.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I will go into when we get closer into Elf. I'm going to go into the, like, sing as yourself, not as someone else, like, as a track. And I would do that a lot. And so when we got into Hedwig, that was the first time I was really able to make something my own. Mm-hmm. And so now for Rocky, I don't want to say I've mastered it, because I don't think I'm a master at anything. I'm someone who wants to learn always. And I still want to take many lessons as a vocal teacher, but as a student as well. And so I've definitely honed in on my craft, though, being able to sing in my own style that still kind of mixes the two, rock and kind of that classic vibrato-y Broadway voice too.
Sweet.
When directing a musical with well-loved source material, how do you keep it fresh for both new and returning audiences?
Well, I'm usually a traditionalist with a lot of shows. Sometimes I like I'll have a concept for something and go in a different direction. So like Murder on the Orient Express, I had an interesting thing to work with because we were in a smaller space of a theater, and that's such a big show. And so I was like, okay, I have to do something that is not traditional here. And so that's why I had my little idea for the set to revolve kind of, and we open it up and it creates this cool experience for a small audience, because that show you would not typically see in a small space. And so that's when you have to get creative. But that's what I like about our space at Aurora too, because we can do these big shows, they just have to be done on a different scale. And so I really like when people get creative with it and try to make it, people are going to think, oh, well, how can they do West Side Story in this space? How can they do, Elf? How can they do, I don't know. I can't think of another show that comes to mind, but there are so many like that you would not think could be done in a space of this size. And then we pull it off because we get creative with it. But it forces us to get creative. And I think that's what keeps an audience coming back, is that we make it our own. It could be a dream to have a fly system where we have things fly in and out. And then on that scale, I would be more traditional with my stuff. I would do a more traditional show. But because we have this space, you have to get creative with it.
Right.
And so that's why I'm excited. Like for Elf, we're going to do something different with the set too, which people don't usually see. But that's what I typically like to do with shows like that. It's things that will make the audience go, oh, how are they going to pull that off? And then we
do it.
We do it.
So, one last question. So, will we see you return to the stage in the director's chair next? I know you're doing Elf as directing, but in the future, other than that, like next year, what do you?
All I can say is stay tuned. I can't say much more than that, but there are a few things that I think are planned for the future. I just cannot speak on them yet.
Being
Darn
the
it!
word.
Yeah. Well, we'll have to get you back here when you can speak about it.
Yes.
But thank you, Drake. We really do appreciate you taking the time to do this interview. We will get back to you when Elf gets closer to opening. We will come back and ask you more questions about Elf.
Awesome.
But thank you again for doing this interview.
Thank
we really
you.
do appreciate it. Thanks.
That was Drake, the director for Elf. I'm so thankful he was able to sit down with the two of you and do that interview. I'm sorry I wasn't able to be there. Thank you so much for joining Actors Creating Together, and we're happy to have you here on episode 6. Stay tuned for episode 7, which is not planned out yet, but we're excited to do it. We've reached out to some choreographers, and our goal is to talk about choreography in episode 7.
By the way, did you guys know that if there was a play written about pencils, that it would always have a sharp ending?
You're getting better.
Are they?
Well, the kind of the ebb and flow. I kind of like that because you don't expect it to be as bad as they are.
Well, I mean, Mario, at rehearsals, I also told your son to break a leg,
Yeah.
but he tripped over the curtain.
Yeah. Well, see, 'cause we're laughing. See, we're laughing.
Those are pity laughs.
Your Facebook dad jokes are the best, though, Cam.
Yes. If you haven't, I'm going to start sharing Cameron's jokes on Facebook because every time I see them, they make me laugh.
They're the best.
Just so funny.
Yes, I've actually shared a few of them on my work chat whenever I've read them. They're so good.
Thank you.
Just so you know, you don't have to be specific to stage for jokes from now on. We're going to let you expand. And be the...
Yeah, don't tell me to expand. My jokes will become raw and unfiltered.
We have the beep button. I could beep it.
We can beep.
If there's any kind of...
Then that beep is going to beep. That beep is going to be so long. You will not be able to hear the joke.
There's the joke. See, that's the joke in itself. The beep.
And with that, stay creative, friends.
Stay creative.
Till next time.
Bye-bye.
All opinions and comments expressed by the hosts and guests of this podcast are solely those of the individual speakers and do not represent the views or positions of any theater or theatrical organization with which they may be affiliated.